Hi, my name is Joshua Hailpern, and today I'm going to be presenting research that I conducted when I was a research scientist at HP Labs in conjunction with Mark Huber and Ronald Calvo. Our paper is entitled, How Impactful is the Presentation in Email? The Effect of Avatar and Signatures. But given the fact that in 10 minutes I really can't go into all the details and all the fun parts that we discovered conducting this research, instead, I'm really thinking of this paper as clickbaity conclusions on how to annoy people with your email avatars and signatures. So, the main part of this research was focused on understanding the avatars, those little pictures of yourself or maybe your kids in the top corners of emails that are of the sender, and the signature that the sender has at the end of the email. And what we really wanted to understand in this work was how the recipient perceives the sender if the avatar changes or if the signature changes as well. So what does the recipient think of the sender? And what we discovered is that there's a lot of downsides here. Most avatars make you appear less agreeable, less extroverted, more neurotic, and even makes the email content itself appear less professional and less well formatted. Whereas most of the signatures make you appear less agreeable, less extroverted, less open, and makes your email appear less well formatted. But it isn't just all downsides. Out of interest, a normal picture of yourself, like a very professional looking photo, makes you appear more conscientious. Whimsical pictures of yourself make you appear conscientious and open. And if you have the company logo in your signature, you'll also appear more open. And lots of social media links, like a Skype, a Facebook link, a Twitter, would make you appear conscientious and make your email appear more professional. But even these upsides have some downsides too, right? So these normal pictures of yourself make you appear less extroverted, less open, and makes your email appear less well formatted. For example, having your company logo there, while it makes you appear less open, you also appear less extroverted. So we also saw this really other interesting observation, which is that numerous of these changes in the avatar or in the signature also impacted the perception of the content of the email, even though the content of the email was something that we deeply controlled. So we're wondering if there isn't some kind of halo effect going on here. If it isn't that first impressions issue that we all talk about, right? Is the first impression that you're having of the sender changing how you perceive everything that comes after that, which is the body copy of the email itself? So some of the conclusions that we presented in the paper included that these social cues of the avatar and the signature, things that we are hoping is going to be informative and make a good impression, often send negative signals. And even if there are positive signals being sent, they come along with negative baggage. So therefore, if you must, keep your avatar and signature simple. And if you're designing software, go easy on the avatars and the profile information. We're not saying don't have them, but make sure that you really understand the impact, because even these small, subtle changes can have a noticeable impact on people's perception. Now, in the remaining time that I have on this recording of this presentation, I would like to briefly discuss how we reached these conclusions and these observations from the quantitative data we collected. So, initially, we started with an informal qualitative interviews with about 15 participants. What we really wanted to do was understand what they thought about emails, in particular avatars and signatures, ended up being very interesting in terms of how many opinions that they actually had. This led us to conduct a between subject quantitative mechanical Turk study with 900 participants. Our goal of this study, as we alluded to earlier, was to measure the perception of the sender from the recipient. And we did this changing the avatars and changing the signatures. And it was really kind of running two studies at the same time, right? We didn't actually try to do a manipulation of the avatar and the signature at the same time. We did them completely independently. Now, how did we measure the impact? Well, the first 5 metrics that we used were the metrics that get extracted from the BFI personality test. And this was a really useful measure for a set of measures for us to pull from, because the BFI has been used to measure the perceived personality of someone else. So multiple times. So this was a really great set of measures for us to use. We also added in 4 additional measures about the email quality itself. This included how easy it was to read, the formatting, how professional, and how well written it was. We also conducted these 2 experiments basically side by side, the signature and the avatar experiment. All of our participants only participated in either a signature condition or an avatar condition, or I guess technically a control condition as well. None of the variations were included in both situations. So in effect, this paper has 2 independent studies running at the same time. Now, one of the most important things here were the controls that we had in place, because we knew that the email content itself could greatly impact the recipient's perception. So to mitigate that as much as possible, we had 6 different variations of email content for all of the different conditions of this experiment. We pulled the 4 of these from the Berkeley Enron dataset, where they actually assigned tone to the different emails. So we had a bunch of different tones of email content from that Enron corpus to ensure that something that might have been really aggressive in one email would be counterbalanced by one that was not aggressive in another condition. We also found 1 tone-neutral email from the Enron corpus, and then we included, lastly, a lorem ipsum body content as well, just to round this out. So in effect, we wanted to make sure that the results that we saw in terms of the impact of avatar and signature had no relationship, or as minimal relationship as possible, to the content of the email itself. This also let us test, because we controlled for the email content, what these subtle secondary display elements of the avatar and the signature did to the content of the email in terms of how the quality of the email was perceived. So what did this result in? We had 9 dependent measures against 6 avatar conditions. We had 9 dependent measures against 6 signature conditions. Now, we chose 6, but obviously there could be a lot more variations, and we actually suggest that future work be done diving into multiple different types of avatars and really trying to tease out what's going on there, or different types of signatures. And we only were really examining how these variations related to the control condition. Basically, were they more or less agreeable than a control? So we never actually tested whether or not one type of avatar was more or less agreeable than another. So likewise, we also never ran an ANOVA, because these were a series of independent t-tests. In addition, in our paper, we reported significance at 0.05, 0.01, and 0.001. We do this because we are strong believers in transparency in terms of significance, and showing significance levels at these multiple gradations allows a great deal of transparency. We also have read a lot of literature about repeated measures and changing the significance threshold for that. We tend to err towards the more transparent approach, but if you did want to adjust for that, in the paper we do report the SIDAC correction, which put the p-value at 0.007, and so all of that is included in the paper as well. One of the things that I think we did really successfully in the paper is how we presented the results. As you can see here, and this is a screenshot of some of the tables that we actually had, is for, in this case it was for the avatars. We actually showed with these spark lines what the mean and standard deviation for each of the measures are, and we highlighted those that were statistically significant versus the control in red, as a red dot instead of a black dot, which from our perspective made it really easy for us to see what the impact was, where the significance was, and make it really compelling and easy to understand what the results that we found were. And that's a summary of how impactful is presentation in email. I encourage everyone to look at our paper. There's a huge amount of data that we included there, including a series of appendices. So thank you very much, and I hope you enjoy the rest of the conference.